It was an absolute riot last time, and it went massively viral on Facebook. Some of what we posted, hundreds of thousands of views.
Oh wow.
I think so. Yeah, you got at least 200 to 300,000 people watch your last one across all the platforms.
Okay.
And for the people who are not familiar with you and your work, do you want to just tell the viewers a little bit about your book and how this relationship with Maxwell and Epstein came about?
Okay, just real quick. Grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and got involved with some illegal things years ago, trafficking cocaine and guns. Went to prison, but during my time of doing illegal things, I ran into a few interesting characters: Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, and some others. So, having done time, took some college courses, writing courses, and decided to start writing some books about these people. And so now I have a TV show on a major network, which I can't name the network just yet, or the name of the show. But in a few weeks, the media blitz is underway. So I just decided to write books. I became, now that I've been released from incarceration, a crime victim advocate along with my fiance, Dr. Mary Bass, and we're working with try to solve cold case murders. Um, in many cases, Paula Turkovic, uh, Brianna Nugent-Nix, Trina McCreary, working on actual innocence cases, including Dr. Leslie Scholl, who was set up and entrapped by a corrupt informant. And I'm just getting rolling. It's just I've been released about 14 months now, and I'm just doing everything I can to do the right thing. And I'm actually, was dreaming about doing this for so long, and I see what you're doing, and I'm really trying to emulate you. Now I have a true crime channel and a podcast, Official William Steele, on YouTube. I also have about 11,000 followers on Instagram already. And I know once the show airs, my show, we already filmed. We filmed, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, but we filmed in Elkhart, Indiana, 10 episodes, and that's going to air in another about 6 weeks. It's going to be all over the place, so it's going to be pretty huge.
Fantastic. And I think what's interesting about your story is that Epstein and Maxwell, it was an insignificant part of your book in the beginning,
Yeah.
but then it became the biggest story in true crime, which led you to expanding on that story and giving us more details about it. And you did indeed end up in a sexual relationship with Maxwell. Is that correct?
Right. It was introduced to her by Jeffrey at the Palm Beach mansion years ago, and we ended up fooling around, and one thing led to another between her, I, and one of her adult assistants. And being in and out of that house, I saw a few things that were questionable, and then at one point, Epstein and I developed some animosity. Now he's from Brooklyn too, so I always put on this hard edge when I'm around certain people. It's not my heart, but it's the facade that I was putting on at the time. I was always carrying guns. I was a locksmith. I was a jewel thief. I was an art thief. And so I put on this facade, and I'd always have guns with silencers. And he was a little paranoid of me. But so I intimidated him once on the day we first met. And he got me back one day by kind of holding me in a room with one of his security detail and showed me how powerful he was by showing some videos that he had, which were pretty graphic and revealing. It was very prominent people with minors.
And we're going to get to that in a moment. But as this relationship with Maxwell developed between you guys, she confided certain things with you, and there was indeed a plot to kill Jeffrey at some point, wasn't there?
One of the last times I saw her, the house was kind of in disarray, and I was able to leave with a few things. I mentioned it's in my book. Um, it's detailed in my book, but I left with a few things, and some of those things I believe might have been incriminating videos and stuff like that. This is 2005 before he was charged, and she was desperate for my help. I was wanted at the time. I was a fugitive, and I went by there for some help. And she basically, I don't want to get into too much detail what she did to me, but it wasn't good, and I ended up restrained and naked and all that stuff. And she was crying and desperate. She said that Jeffrey's going to be the death of her, and she was going over these various scenarios, kind of insisting that if I don't help her eliminate him, that she was going to turn me in for what I was wanted for at the time, which was a nonviolent crime. I had walked off for work detail, so it was escape. I had escaped from prison. Anyway, um, I don't even know how she became aware of it that quick, but she was because it was in that same area. and she suggested some ways it could be done. One of the things that I hinted at in the book, because there was videos, with Hillary Clinton and Prince Andrew and other members of the royal family. I'm not going to name the children, but there were certain children that were clearly filmed, royal children, doing things, and Jeffrey said he was able to get those videos from Prince Andrew in order to get something from Prince Andrew. So he actually had some videos of other royals and turned them over to this guy, to Jeffrey. Um, anyway, I digress. So she wanted him eliminated as far back as 2005. She was afraid that things were going to come caving in and Jeffrey would be the death of her, was the exact words. She also said, I said, well, considering the videos I saw and Hillary's in some of them, you know, they have a whole history, allegedly of people dying under their watch in Mena, Arkansas, and all over the country. I don't know if it's true. I don't know the Clintons. I know they from what I see, they're super dangerous. And she said Hillary is backing her on this, is insisting on Ghislaine getting it done. And she specifically said she would use all of her political influence to ensure that Ghislaine's never charged with any crime. Well, we see how that turned out.
Wow. All right, we're going to go over some of this slower then. And I've got to just give a legal disclaimer here then before we embark upon this. I just want to say that Hillary Clinton has never been convicted or held to account, incarcerated, or anything for any involvement in crimes of a sexual nature against anybody, and Prince Andrew has had allegations against him, but he has not been convicted of any crimes of this nature either. I've just got to say that legally to balance this out.
Absolutely, and I can preface this with allegedly as well. However, my allegedly stops at I know what I saw with my own eyes at that house, the videos, and I know what Ghislaine told me, and I know what Jeffrey showed me. So I'm kind of walking a tightrope here with trying to, be legally appropriate. So.
All right. So what did you see?
I actually saw some of the videos in which he was pointing out, especially with Andrew, saying that was he bragged that Andrew was his Super Bowl trophy. And I was just turning away. I'm like, I'm not going to leave here alive. At this time, I was scared to death anyway. I was on the run and, things were closing in on me. And I felt like, these people like have the upper hand on me and, I'm not going to leave here. I'm not going to leave here alive.
So are you saying that there was a video of Andrew in a compromising position with a minor, perhaps?
Absolutely. I saw it with my own eyes, and it was more than one. It wasn't just one minor. It was multiple. It was like different videos, like collaged together. Like I guess he had the best hits reel type thing that he was showing me.
So Virginia has alleged that there was an orgy on the island whereby underage East European girls were participating in this activity. I'm just saying activity to
I've
minimize
seen that.
my language here.
I've seen that, and there was young girls that were not speaking English. They were barely talking, but they weren't speaking English.
So was that part of this show reel then that Epstein showed you? Was it footage from the island, perhaps, that corroborates what Virginia said?
Some of that, which looked like it was like an exotic location, because other footage in there was by a pool. It looked like there was palm trees in the ocean. I've never been to that house, but I've been to the Palm Beach house several times.
And were there any other adults other than Prince Andrew in these films that you saw?
Well, I've listed some of them in the book, and other ones I'm thinking about what to do with this, because it's a risky thing to write about your experiences when you've been around these people. It's a very risky thing. I think they're all running for cover right now. I think Ghislaine Maxwell makes a deal. I think they're all going down, because whatever I took out of there, I got it to the right people, two groups of the right people in law enforcement. It disappeared or wasn't used or something, but I'm certain she's got her own copies stashed away somewhere, or maybe intelligence agencies that they were working with at the time. But I firmly believe she's cutting a deal right now.
So are you alleging that Hillary was engaged in nefarious activity on videos you saw?
I know what I saw. I know what who Jeffrey said this was, and if it wasn't Hillary, it was her identical twin or doppelganger. It was. I'm trying to say allegedly, but I know what I saw, and I know what Hillary looks like.
So Epstein is dead now, so we can't defame him. Was Epstein in the videos himself?
No, I never saw one video with Jeffrey in it. Not even one.
What about Jean-Luc Brunel, who's also dead?
I know who he is. I met him at the house before. He was in a couple of them as well.
Wow. And what was it like meeting Jean-Luc Brunel?
I didn't talk to him much. He seemed pretty arrogant type guy, and without commenting on his nationality or anything, he just came a little arrogant and sleazy, really sleazy. I mean, they were always talking about models and masseuses coming in and out of the house, but your gut tells you it's something else. Don't forget, the first time I met Jeffrey on Palm Beach, Worth Avenue is one of the most affluent streets there, shopping district. I was in the diamond salon, and he had his hand down the back of a young lady's shorts, and she looked like Taxi Driver era Jodie Foster. She could be a double for Jodie Foster at that time. So she looked like she was about 13, and that's where I confronted him immediately.
All right, so we've got quite a lot of comments and questions coming in from the viewers. Ray J has pointed out in the last couple of days, the New York Times has printed a story about an inmate being offered money to assassinate Maxwell. Do you think that is accurate, and do you think that something like that could happen?
I think that's accurate because I even wrote some notes just to be prepared today, and that's one of the things that she brought up about Jeffrey, that they can get to anybody in the jails because of their connections, but that she wanted him dead before he ever went to jail, just to be sure, and she wanted to be alibied out of the country. Do I think they'll get to her? Absolutely. I've been interviewed by the Sun, the National Enquirer, many outlets, and I've explained some of this to them. I think some of it's a little too salacious for them to print, but I absolutely would believe that somebody's been approached. I would think it would be more like staff or somebody like that rather than an inmate, because most inmates are not going to be that reliable. They're going to take the money and not do it.
Yeah, exactly. It'd have to be facilitated through the staff. I agree. Now, Ray J has asked, who do you think has the videos now? Is the FBI perhaps holding them for their own purposes?
I don't know. Probably they have the case already locked in and over with Jeffrey. Now they have her convicted. They're probably going after the people that are on them if they were truly incriminating. I believe they were, because they were boxed up ready to take them out of the house, and I was able to get out with some of that stuff. But I believe they are holding them as evidence. I don't know if it's the FBI or the Palm Beach County prosecutor's office. I'm not sure who would have them at this stage. This was, a few years back.
So in the murder conspiracy then, did that involve Hillary and Prince Andrew discussing the benefits of having Jeffrey eliminated?
She never directly said anything about Andrew, but when I brought up the videos, she specifically mentioned that Hillary was definitely supporting it and promised Ghislaine that if she's able to pull it off, that she'll never be charged. If anything came up out of the house, that the investigations that were going on, evidently they got wind as far back as, I think, 05, that there was an investigation going on. And here I enter the picture under really weird circumstances, right in the middle of this. But I sensed something was wrong. And then and I said, well, she mentioned, when I mentioned about Hillary and everybody else in the videos, she said that Hillary specifically is behind it, wanting Jeffrey dead, and that she would use her political connections to ensure that Ghislaine was never charged with a crime. She's charged with a crime, so maybe she's been confronted with the videos that she's in. Her husband certainly was in some of them too.
Makes sense, because I've written extensively about the Clintons, and Hillary has a history of cleaning up after her husband's debauchery,
right,
with all kinds of horror stories of things that have happened to the females, the dead animals, people getting knocked off balconies, murders.
She was involved in a lot. I knew a detective from South Florida, and he had a best friend. This is rumored, but he had his best friend who was Secret Service, White House detail during the Clinton administration. And then, as far back as then, she was having an affair with I think, a black staff member, like a lesbian relationship. So what I saw didn't surprise me, other than the age of the girls. They looked very, very young.
Yeah, in my book, Who Killed Epstein, Prince Andrew or Bill Clinton, I do put a lot of emphasis on the Clinton body count and them being a major impetus in the demise of Epstein, ultimately in the federal detention center. Yeah. All right, so let's see. She made it clear that even if he was incarcerated, he would be murdered to silence him and to try to prevent release of the videos, some of which you saw and know about the massive damage that would ensue if they came out.
It's very difficult to hear you, but I'm trying to lean in a little bit. What was the question?
Oh, is my audio going down, or can you hear me okay now?
I don't know if it's on this end. I don't know how to adjust it.
Let me ask Ash if my audio has gone funny. Ash, can you put in the chat if my audio is good or bad? Let's see. Oh, my audio is fine. All right. So, going over to the possibility of Epstein faking his own death. What happened there?
Well, she mentioned that he said that if things caved in on him, that he would fake his own death. So that's right out of her mouth as well. Anything's possible. Part of me is starting to suspect he's still alive because of things I heard through the grapevine, people that have been back in touch with me. I think he's still alive somewhere. I say that I don't want to seem like a conspiracy theorist. I really don't, but it just doesn't seem likely that a guy worth billions upon billions of dollars with all these powerful connections. I don't know. Maybe he got out of there and then they killed him somewhere else, but it's tough. They had this guy Tartaglione, I think, in the jail with him, and who had strangled him before, a few days before, and certainly somebody could have approached him to finish him off. How did all the videos disappear that day? Now we've both been incarcerated. We know how often they sleep on the job. They don't do their rounds. Sometimes you wish they would because things going on, and other times you're like, I wish they wouldn't. But it's so inconsistent, and it made sense that they weren't doing their rounds. They were on the internet, two of them, when he died, and he was supposed to be on suicide watch.
Yeah, I've just opened the line of communication with Nicholas Tartaglione, and I'm going to be getting some information from him soon, hopefully.
I think if Hillary or anybody was, helping Ghislaine in any way, or however they got it done, if they did get it done, that they just bailed on Ghislaine because maybe they got wind that she was already starting to try to cooperate. So they were like, okay, we're going to try to prevent you from getting charged, and now you're on your own. But she could still sink them. I'm certain of it.
This has gone fast, William. It's such powerful stuff. We've only got time for a few more questions, and we got one from Dr. Mary Bass. William, how do you summon the bravery to speak up and to write powerful books about the dangerously wealthy elite, including Maxwell and Durst?
I have a very, very strong faith in God. I've had for the last several years, and I believe doing the right thing, coming forward, that I'll be okay, and if something happens to me, I'm going to a better place. There was a lot of prison in my past. I did 18 years for nonviolent offenses. I was no angel. I got involved with a lot of things, but I do have a strong faith, so it's my faith. And what inspires me also was all these female victims that came forward. Now, the victims' rights attorneys, they call me a victim. Some of them I've been in touch with. Some in law enforcement. The counselor I was in counseling with a few years ago about what happened to me at that house said I'm a victim. I said, I'm not a victim. I'm a guy. I put myself there. I was having sex with her because I got tied up and threatened. My life was threatened while I was tied up, by two women, essentially, Ghislaine and her assistant. It's kind of embarrassing to talk about it then, but now, I talked to my fiance. She goes, just tell it as it is. Don't worry about me hearing it. I understand you've been through a lot. And the short answer is my faith and the inspiration from these other victims, these women. that as kids went through horrible things at the hands of these people. They need to be held accountable. We're trying to get to New York for the sentencing, but I'm in the Midwest right now filming my TV show, so kind of between New York and the Midwest.
What day is the sentencing?
I believe it's June 29th. I haven't checked in the last week or so, unless they reset it.
It's getting close.
It's real soon.
Ray J wants to know if you have looked at the Peter Nygard case, which has a lot of parallels with the Epstein case.
What's it called?
Peter Nygard. He also had an island, a Bahamian island. He was a billionaire. Prince Andrew visited. Many parallels.
That sounds very familiar, but I'm not that familiar with the case.
Okay.
Not that familiar with it.
So, is there anything you'd like to add then before we finish?
I'd like to add that I am a crime victim advocate now with my fiance, and I think your guy asked me to hold the cover of the book up earlier, so I want to make sure everybody sees that's available on Amazon. That's one about Robert Durst, and you can see it in the back right here. That's the Ghislaine Maxwell book, Sensational and Impure by William Steele. I would really like for everybody to check out official William Steele on YouTube and official William Steele on Instagram. Subscribe. I've been out of prison about 14 months now, trying to tell my stories. And frankly, Shaun, I'm trying to do exactly what you're doing. So I love what you do, man.
That warms my heart, William, when other people have been inspired to do what I'm doing. It really does give me a nice feeling. I really appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, you came from a horrible place, man. I've seen your testimony and your story about how screwed up Arizona was, especially under Joe Arpaio and the roaches. Yeah. And I know what it is when you put your coffee cup on the bars at midnight so they can fill it up for breakfast, and then you pick it up at breakfast and there's dead roaches. They got scalded. I know what you went through. So I've been to some horrible places. I've been to South Florida prisons, New York prisons. I've been in the Las Vegas jail. So I can only imagine the heat and the horrific conditions. And I give you nothing but props for everything you're doing. You try to help people, and you do it with such a good nature, man. I just really I admire you.
Oh, thanks, William. Are you allowed to travel? Could you ever come to London?
I'm actually working on trying to find out what's going to be required of that. I know there are restrictions, but I think they could be, for example, Michael Francesi has been convicted of a crime, and he went to see you recently. I'm a member of his...
I'm hosting 3 of his shows on his tour.
Well, fill me in. How did he get his visa? Because I think for work-related, ministry-related, or governmental, you can get like exceptions or waivers and go. How did he pull it off? That's what
I don't know, but John Elite, he pulled it off as well. We interviewed him in London.
There's ways to do it. I think they just don't want you hiding the situation, like just applying for a visa. Just be above board and say what you're doing. And I'd love to go out there. There's people that introduced me to you. You have Carrie. She's got a group about abuse, and Danielle. I don't know if they were interviewed. I think on Andrew Gold's show, and they interviewed me on Hidden Existence. And they said, hey, you need to hook up with Shaun Attwood. And, I've been in prison forever, 18 years. So, honestly, I didn't hear about you. And then I started watching your stuff, and I'm hooked. I'm telling all my New York and United States people about you, Shaun. So you're going to get big over here, too. And I have this show coming out in a few weeks. I have 2 agents and a PR firm working for me, plus the network PR firm. So in a few weeks, I'm going to get real busy.
Oh, I really appreciate that, William. We have run out of time. We've got to go to the next guest. Right. So you have a good rest of your day. Cheers, my friend.
Great seeing you again, Shaun. Take care. Thank you for having me.
All right, brother.
All right,
bye. Bye-bye. Get him out to the UK and do his life story in the studio, professionally filmed. I know it will be amazing. So next we're going to bring in Colin Wright. And